How you guys doing? This is Haseen Williams here with Coach Robbie Sandoval after a big win over league rival El Cap, 61-24. Coach, in the first half, it looked like they were really trying to slow you guys down defensively, kind of maybe junk it up a little bit. You guys had trouble scoring, but defensively you guys stopped them from scoring. What was the adjustment to kind of how they were playing you defensively?
We just really wanted to try to move the ball, set a lot of ball screens, a lot of dribble handoffs, try to get Peterson and Girola, they're our top two scorers, loose. Unfortunately tonight, unlike the last game we played them, we had some other kids step up like Corley and Bennett, and that's huge for us.
So, like you said, it seemed like they made a conscious effort to try to slow down Peterson, a lot of face guarding. Talk about your team's ability to have other people beat you and the fact that you had a one-person show.
Yeah, no, it's definitely big for us. I mean, we go over that all the time. Teams are going to do that. We know that. Other kids have opportunities to step up. They do. And, Peterson does a good job of not getting, rattled or struggling and getting frustrated. So she just continued to play basketball. As you saw today, she started passing the ball a lot more, getting assists, and then getting out in transition.
So you guys have dominated the league. I think it's 18 straight. A lot of new teams come in the league. I know, like this year, a couple teams, Grossmont, El Cap, really felt like they may have had a shot. How important is it for you, legacy-wise, not only to win the league, but to continue your dominance over the league?
Well, I think it's very important just because, the kids, even the girls who graduated in the past, remind these kids all the time when they come back and let them know, like, look, we haven't lost since Coach Rob's been here in league, and it's very important to kind of, I say send a message, but let people know that we're still the top dog and we're going to continue to be the top dog.
So last time I spoke to you, it was after you guys won the Open Division. Talk about where this team is now and how you feel about the chances, the prospects of making another run at the Open title.
Well, I'll tell you what, this year, the Open Division, I think, is the deepest it's been ever since the Open Division started. You got legitimately 6 or 7 teams that can win it all. It's going to be highly competitive. We're just trying to get better every day. We lost a couple tough ones. We just lost a tough one to Christian. We felt like we played really well. We got another big one going up against Bishops here in about a week and a half, and we just got to try to get better. And when the playoffs come, hey, we're going to be ready to go.
Well, appreciate the time. Good luck on the win, and not too much good luck next week against Bishops. Thanks a lot, Coach.
You know that.
All right, Big Rob.
Welcome back to another edition of the Girls Basketball Podcast. We are at Mount Miguel today. Haseen Williams, Braden Surprenant here. We finally made it out to Mount Miguel. It took us a year and a half, and they won the Open title last year, and we never talked about them once, so we decided to go to a game. And it took us a year and a half. But we're finally here in El Cap, or they played El Cap today, Mount Miguel did, and won in a, dramatic, not really dramatic fashion, but a convincing fashion. They won 61-24, a game that was 28 to 4 at halftime. Take away, the score. El Cap was in it a lot early in the game, and their defense was showing really stingy defense. But what happened and transpired, the snowball that kind of rolled down the mountain in terms of El Cap's chances tonight? Well,
they definitely focused on their defense, and sometimes when you put so much emphasis on one side of the ball, other side suffers. So as well as they did of slowing down Mount Miguel, specifically Peterson, they weren't able to score on their own. So sometimes it's like, do you want to put all that effort and trying to do one particular thing and other things suffer? And I think that's kind of what you saw. So if you were to say, hey, you did a good job stopping Peterson, that's great, but you're not doing anything on the other end. So it's like a net negative.
Mackenzie Curtis, the stud basketball player for El Cap, the sophomore, is the leading scorer right now in San Diego County. She was pretty much shut down, and she was in foul trouble early. Do you see that playing an effect as they try to manage her time in the first half?
I think the foul trouble was key. I think she was they did a really good job of sending multiple players at her, stifled her a little bit, and then she's trying to make plays defensively. Got a couple of cheap fouls. She's a competitor, and I know they really get up for this game. This is a team that El Cap is measuring themselves against Mount Miguel, so sometimes emotions are really, really high. Pick up a cheap foul here. I'm not sure what was with her running mate, Jordan Granity. She wasn't out here today. It's a big factor. They don't have a whole lot of people that score the ball, so when you're down, probably I'm quite sure she's their second leading scorer. When she's missing, it really makes it a lot harder for the margin of error for them to try to beat a Mount Miguel is already slim. So being down a score, it really hurts.
Earlier in your interview, you're interviewing the head coach of Mount Miguel and talking about the dominance they've had in the Grossmont League. And you look around, they have not lost a league championship since the year 2000 or whenever he started. What can you say about the dominance Mount Miguel has had out here in the East County?
Well, it speaks to the consistency of him as a coach, the kind of players he gets. And, again, he doesn't wow you away with, he usually has maybe one or two next level players, but he does such a good job of everybody in the roster really buy into the way they play. I've coached a couple of his kids in club ball, and they're all well coached, smart kids. They play really hard, really focus on the defensive end. So it's really a testament to, like I said, the consistency as a program as a whole, the consistency of his coaching and the system that he implements, and mainly how much people buy into the legacy of, like you mentioned, it's not just the current players, but the pride that the former players have, and they don't want to let down that legacy of being the first team that doesn't win a league title.
While you were answering that, I got a notification on my phone from Twitter of an alum that said "Go Matadors" to the tweet of the score we posted, and it had hashtag and then class. I wasn't able to see exactly the class, but that's just how much tradition they have here at Mount Miguel and how much winning Grossmont League games is to them. But let's get into last week. We sent 4 of our top programs over to Northern California. They played in a pretty big tournament. You were there. You were able to see it. How did we do? It sounded like we did really well on the first day, and then the second day we kind of struggled, but it sounded like everybody got a win up there.
Absolutely. So on the first day, Bishops, Country Day, and Cathedral all won, with Mission Hills being the only team that lost. And then the second day, it was flip-flop with Mission Hill being the only team that won. Every team that the San Diego section teams played were ranked a lot higher than us, whether you look at Cal High or Max Prep. So the level of competition that we played was really good. I think we definitely represented the section well. Probably the most dominant performance would be that of Country Day, who beat the home team or the host team, St. Mary's, almost by 30, if not by 30. And that's a perennial power, ranked top 15 in the state by a couple different publications. So it doesn't get more convincing than what Country Day did. And it's good to see Tiana Pau back. She had 32 big points. So I think we definitely went up there and earn some respect and hopefully some recognition as we get into some post-seed from some open division seedings, some state seedings that they'll respect the section.
Well, that drastically changed our top 10, so we'll start it off in the bottom half, if I can remember correctly. Number 10 was San Marcos. They've kind of fallen the whole time, but they've managed to stay in the top 10 with their tough schedule and what Coach DeCarlo is doing. What can you say about San Marcos?
They're tough. Cloutier is out for the year. It's probably going to be one of the tougher jobs Coach DeCarlo's had to do. We talked about it before. We feel like the top 10 is pretty much the top 10. So even with their losses, I think the gap is probably still pretty good between them and the teams that would be trying to stake a claim for number 10.
Number 6 in the county is La Costa Canyon, if I do believe, or number 9 is La Costa Canyon, if I do believe. They did flip-flop, and they're back in the top 10 for the second week in a row. What can you say? They kind of struggled early, and now they're back on the rise.
The schedule was really, really tough. They played 6 or 7 of the top 10 teams in the county in the first 8 to 10 games of their season, so they're battle-tested. A lot of people probably were looking at their record and thinking that was an indication of how good they were, but they're a good team. They got a tough matchup this coming week. They play Mission Hills. Mission Hills is coming off a really, really big win over Bishop Gorman yesterday, so I feel like they're rolling. That'll be a huge test for La Costa Canyon. I know for a fact that the staff over there at Mission Hills thinks highly of La Costa, and they definitely won't be taking them lightly.
And you get to 8 in the county, which is Bonita Vista. You go to 7, which is Mater Dei. 6 is this Mount Miguel team we just watched, and if they put another showing like today, they should be in the top 5 pretty shortly with the dominance that they had over El Cap. And then you get to the top 5, and this is where all the rearranging happens. Starting with number 5, we have Bishops. They've cracked the top 5 after that big tournament last weekend. Coming in at number 4 is Cathedral Catholic. They've dropped a couple spots after losing to Christian. They seem to be reeling a little bit after that Christian loss, which was very uncharacteristic with the amount of times they've turned the ball over. And then you get to number 3, which is Mission Hills, La Jolla Country Day 2, and then Christian number 1. Talk about the reasoning in the poll people had in determining these top 4, because that was the most movement. And it had to do a lot with the tournament with La Jolla Country Day and the fact that Christian is dominated down here in San Diego.
So Christian was already in the mix for preseason number 1. So their win over Cathedral kind of elevated them. It was tough to place Cathedral just because how far do you drop them when they lose to a really good Christian team? So they did struggle pretty bad yesterday. I think the problem with Cathedral, you have a team that was really good the year before, And then you add, one of the best players in the county and another in Haseen and Braden and another top freshman in Izzy Navarro. So I think it's just taking them a little time to figure out pieces. People who had prominent roles last year, all of a sudden they're more in a complementary role. So I think they'll figure it out. For the top 10 this week coming up, though, especially the top 5 Bishops, we play Country Day on Friday and then Christian on Saturday. So that will definitely have some bearing on how next week's top 5 and top 10 look.
Let's get to some of the games that we want to pick, and we're looking at Friday this week. You got some big games here as Mission Hills plays at La Costa Canyon. OLP is going to play Point Loma, Tri-City Christian, Maranatha, Bishop's La Jolla Country Day, the rivalry you were talking about earlier that you're going to be a part of, and University City at Morris. Besides your game, obviously, and the La Costa Canyon game that we already talked about, what other game sticks out to you as one of the most important coming up on Friday?
I mentioned earlier, but La Costa Canyon Mission Hills is really big because, it's really gonna give us a measure of how much that early season schedule has really prepared La Costa Canyon for Mission Hill. So I'm really interested to see how that one plays out.
Next week, early in the week, we got some big matchups on Tuesday as well as Wednesday. Tuesday, University City at OLP is going to be a good matchup. Rancho Bernardo at Westview. We're going to see Lilo Reynolds again. Escondido Charter at Tri-City Christian. 2 smaller schools that have had pretty good seasons. You wanted to talk about Tri-City Christian. What can you say about how they've played so far?
They've done really well. Big fan of their coach, Alyssa Ramos. We had a chance to go down there and meet her last year when they played Pacific Ridge. They're talented. They have a couple of really talented freshmen. I don't want to butcher names. I know one of them is Bailey. She's a super talented freshman, big body, strong kid, can shoot the ball. And then they have another post player, Natalie Peaster, who actually just went over 1,000 points last week. So they're a team that's on the rise. Small school, so not a lot of people talk about them, but they're doing good things, and hopefully we can get out there to see them soon.
We also got a big battle in the South Bay, Otay Ranch at Bonita Vista. And then we have a rematch of Cathedral and Christian, a battle for first place for the Western League. And, a chance for Cathedral to try to bump themselves back up to the number 1 spot potentially with a game against the Patriots.
It's so cool to have 2 of the top 5 or teams that are in the same league. So like with Country Day and Bishops and Christian and Cathedral, because they're going to play twice. So it's like it really gives you a chance to see them, get both teams get a home game. Both you get a chance to see how teams adjusted from the first game. So it really puts emphasis on the coaches and see who can make adjustments. So again, as we get in league play, it's really excited as we mentioned it before last week with how teams are seated in the open division is going to be really, really key because so many different styles of the different teams are going to make for interesting matchups. So how you get seated in that open division is really going to, in my opinion, dictate how it plays out even more years than ever. Because like Coach Rob said, it's wide open. It's really, really deep. More teams have a legitimate claim for the title this year than I think any year of the open division.
It's going to be exciting in the next couple of weeks. Be sure to check out our all-class teams that we came up with. We decided to go with 8 girls per grade, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. The top, in our opinion, the top athletes for each grade level in terms of girls basketball. That's on our Instagram page, the San Diego Prep Insider. And then be sure to, I wanted to give a shout out real quick to Madison. They've only lost 2 games this year. We're catching an eye on some of that. Mission Vista, another school that's done very well that we just want to give some shout outs to as we get into the last week or 2 of the regular season before we start playoff basketball. And that's going to be all fun. We'll have our tournament picks. We'll do our own little March Madness that we do in February because that's when it is. We're the last ones here. I guess they trust us coming to the game to turn the lights out. Scoreboard's still on. 61-24 is the final as Mount Miguel beats El Cap. For Haseen Williams, I'm Braden Surprenant. We'll see you guys next week.